Greetings, divine mirrors. Sacred, awakening, remembering, gods and goddesses, one and all. Thank you for showing up. Welcome to episode 12 of Voices of the Global Awakening, Tuesdays with Tess, from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific time. So far, right here on my Facebook profile page, and until further notice. And it's been a very rich journey so far and continues to be, and I keep opening to spirit to receive guidance and inspiration as to what is the best and highest use of our time together. And given what is taking place on the world stage at this moment, the topic of healing the hate that hurts is what most came to my heart as what there is to look into. And I was very fortunate this past week to see a lovely woman, friend, colleague of mine named Brenda Adelman, who has an award-winning show that she has done all over the world, a one-woman autobiographical show called My Brooklyn Hamlet, about her experience healing and transmuting some pretty horrific personal pain in her life. And as I often feel guided, or not more than often, always feel guided to work on the micro and macro level, I feel that her story and insight and the work that she has done, because basically she is a master of forgiveness, and there she is. So I'm going to just bring her right in here right now. You don't know how to get on. All right, well, let's see. Maybe I can do it. Sometimes I can do it. It says it's adding you. Hey, there you
It
are.
worked.
Ta-da!
Can
We
you hear
did
me?
it. I can hear you. Yes, I did.
Great.
I don't know if you heard me. I was just singing your praises.
Uh-oh.
I can hear you, but now you're
You're
frozen.
frozen. Am I frozen or are you frozen?
You're now unfrozen. Am I unfrozen?
Now you're unfrozen. Let's see. I'm going
Okay.
to pull it up on the other thing too.
Okay.
Technology. Gotta love it and hate it.
Yes,
So no,
yes, yes.
I did not hear.
So what I was saying was, as I feel into my heart each week on what there is to talk about, so that we get like the highest use of our time together, given the situation on the world stage at the moment. This subject came to me of healing the hate that hurts. And I was
Mm.
saying that I was fortunate in a timely way to have gotten to finally see your show, My Brooklyn Hamlet, this past week, award-winning one-woman autobiographical show. And I was just saying about how, like, on the micro, macro level, I'm just blown away by the work that you have done to transmute and transcend um, just about as heinous a personal life experience as anyone could ever imagine, and how necessary it is and important to address these things on the micro level if we have any hope of handling it on the macro. And so I was saying that you are something of a forgiveness expert, and I was just about to go into your background a bit, but you know it far better than I. So why don't you share a bit about
Oh, all
what
right.
you're doing?
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for doing this. I'm so excited about this show for
Thank you.
you and all
Thank
you have
you.
to give to the world.
Thank
Very,
you.
very supportive. And thank you for coming to my show. I just performed my one woman show about my life story, My Brooklyn Hamlet, on stage in Los Angeles. And so you really did get to know me. It's a very vulnerable place for me. It's interesting because a lot of people know a lot about me, but I don't necessarily know about the intricacies of your lives, although we did get to talk a bit. And I've been teaching storytelling for many years because I'm so interested in this real connection and what's really going on beyond the facade, beyond the, making it through life, which
Yes.
is tough. It's very tough
Yes.
right now, and it's got a history of being tough, being human. So yes, I have a critically acclaimed one-woman show that I've performed all over the world called My Brooklyn Hamlet. Uh, Unfortunately, my life is like, unfortunately, or maybe I don't know if it's fortunate, but it's just is the way it is. It's my show is called My Brooklyn Hamlet because my father shot and killed my mother back in 1995 and married her sister, and it gave me solace knowing that somewhere in history someone went through something like I did, which was Shakespeare's Hamlet. And of course, Hamlet was about death and revenge, and I've turned that around and made my life's work to be about the power of forgiveness once I found a way to forgive my father and forgive myself for ever trusting him and all the other stuff. I teach storytelling. I've helped about over 200 people tell their stories on stage the last couple of years, right before the pandemic, actually, and given them a showcase, a place to step on stage, because we could be in class forever and then the world doesn't really get to hear our music. So I've been doing that, and I've been teaching and coaching on forgiveness since 2005. And that happened. How did that happen? It happened because I got a master's in spiritual psychology after my mother was killed. And I did it just purely to save my life. Like, look at not only why did this happen, but how can I thrive now? And then didn't realize that I would be using those tools to coach, because people would see my show and then be like, but how did you forgive him? And I realized, there's a lot of information out there to say to forgive, but doesn't really show how. And I don't feel like you can forgive unless you know how to set a healthy boundary. So that's kind of the cornerstone of my work, is forgiveness, setting healthy boundaries, storytelling in like the baddest, boldest, most creative way, so that we are self-expressed and we own our story and we do it from a healing place. That's it in a nutshell.
That's all.
That's it. I mean,
All.
There's more, but I'll just put it there. There's more because you've seen the show.
Yes, Jeff Jacobs says you're very brave to share your story, Brenda. You have no idea how brave this woman is. She's extraordinary. I want to ask you, so when you say, healthy boundaries, how do you do that with people that are not here anymore? Like how do you do that?
Yeah, we didn't talk about that when we were talking the other day, and it's a really big part of my process, and I go into it. I have a book, I go into that, and also in my digital course on forgiveness. Let me explain the process for me. I feel like when you're brought up in a crazy household, which I don't know if there's an 80-20 rule, I'd say 80% of people, I wouldn't say 20. Because where did people learn skills of parenting? There's no school to go to for that before you become a parent. And so much is passed down. But I feel like if you don't have boundaries in a household, or your voice is not heard, or it feels safer to be quiet, or you go into the role of the caregiver, like so many of us take on different roles, that most people don't know what a boundary is. And then there comes a point, at least for me, where you realize that what someone is doing is wrong or it's hurting you, and you set a hard boundary, which is sometimes a really necessary part of the process. So for me, that hard boundary, we'll talk about my father, was I thought forgiving him and having peace was about like letting him back in my life. And then I had this moment where I'm like, no, that he's toxic. Why would I let someone who is narcissistic, I'm just using labels because it's quick. I don't necessarily believe in labels, but they point to certain qualities that happen. So, he's narcissistic, sociopathic tendencies, defensive. Why would you let someone in your life who takes no responsibility? And this is where everyone who's listening can look at their life and see if there's someone like that in their life. I know there probably is, because I've worked with so many people, right? So you have a parent, or you have a child, or you have a sibling, and you say it's okay because it's part of the family pattern. So this is kind of the process. First, sometimes there's a hard boundary when you realize you can actually change the way things are. And for me, it was, I am not talking to my father. I don't want him in my life. That's it. But the problem is if you stay, and sometimes you need that if someone's in your life, because you get on the phone with them and before you know it, you're off and to the races, and it's the same relationship you had before. And if you maybe you're not strong enough yet in your own beingness and self-forgiveness to set a healthy boundary, so you don't take the phone calls, or you're kind of like dismissive of them, right? So of course then that's a whole nother story of like, if you're dismissive to someone else, in karma, it can come back, or you can be dismissive of yourself. That's why you want to move past that. But let's say you need to be that way. That's a hard boundary. The hard boundary is it hasn't been healed. And so that part of you that's hard to someone else is going to be hard to yourself or someone else that doesn't deserve it. And so you have to look at, is that person still taking up space in your mind and your heart because you've shut them out like that? Mm-hmm. And so the next stage is what I call a healthy boundary, or a softer boundary. And that is where you do the inner work, and I'll talk a little bit about it, so that when you think about that person, or you have to spend time with them because you're choosing to do it. This is the thing. It's not a repeatable pattern that you just fall into, that your world doesn't fall apart because of that, because we are responsible for that. And the good news is that we are responsible for it, so that we can do the work. So some work that it could help to have to turn a hard boundary into a healthy boundary would be free-form writing, but not just journaling, like giving a voice to your upset. I'm so effing angry that this person did that. Like, so many people are so afraid to be a victim that they don't actually love that part of them that feels like a victim or was a victim. You actually have to acknowledge that. Otherwise, that anger, that upset, that not speaking up for yourself turns in on you, or it goes towards someone else who doesn't deserve it. And so that's one way to release that energy, is to embrace it and then love it and let it go, not indulge in it. And another way is inner child work. Okay, that person really hurt me and I have to see them. Let's say, because you talked about that. All right, well, how can I care for that part of me that feels like it was hurt by this person and that person keeps hurting me? So, well, let me spend some time with my inner child, and let me, as the adult at the age stage I'm in right now, set some boundaries, so that if this person is toxic, if this person is negative, if this person is draining my energy, if this person is acting, putting me in a role that I don't play anymore, I'm not that little child, that I just leave, that I say, look, I'm not taking this right now. I give a simple explanation of or a simple example is something like someone goes back for a holiday and their sibling is just nasty and cursing and all this stuff, but they stay because they don't want to upset their parent. I coach the client. I'm like, when you get there, tell them you don't like that, you don't accept it, and that if they keep doing that, in 10 minutes, you are going to leave. Then the onus of feeling like you wish someone would change, it's actually on them. And then when they do that, then the parents can look at that dynamic. You know what I'm saying? It's like, at some point, we have to look at where we are now as an adult. We have to protect our inner child that feels scared if it was not healed, and we have to set some healthy boundaries. And it doesn't have to be like, I hate you and I'm leaving. It can just be like, that doesn't work for me. That hurts. Like, as an empath, right? You're an empath. As an empath, I don't want to be around that energy. I had to be around that chaotic energy when I was younger. We get to choose, but the key is you don't make the other person wrong. And that's like the advanced courses. You can't make them wrong. They just are being them, And if you feel like they're wrong, then do writing.
What do you do? That's great, and thank you. What do you do with the hate? Like that, there's hate covering hurt, I think, right? So it's like, before we get to our own hurt in our hearts, first there's this feeling of hatred, and that feeling of hatred is hurting. It's hurting us and it's hurting other people, because we are projecting it out onto the world, and we're kind of creating a wall around ourselves because we're trying to cover it too, right? Especially if you're in a situation where you feel like you should be empathetic, right? You should be empathetic to a person, but instead you're harboring hatred.
But why should you be empathetic to them? Just as for a conversation.
Well, okay, so like let's say in my personal, so here I was the daughter of two Auschwitz survivors, two very elegant and refined and extremely fragile people. And in the case of my mother, she was very histrionic. And so it's like from a social situation, I am expected, and I have been, lauded throughout my life for what a good daughter I was, right? But it was like a battle because it was like the part of me that knew that I should be empathetic and I should be a good daughter and that they deserved it because they were crazy because of what they went through, was in conflict with the part of me that felt like, what did I do to deserve this reality? And so there was like harboring a hatred that was turned in on
Yeah,
myself.
it's interesting because I remember being in an acting class years ago, and I used to be very shy. And I remember the teacher saying, actually, shyness is just covering up resentment. And I was like, oh, wow, what? Because, when
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
shy or you're the victim, you can feel like you're the good person.
right.
So that was a wake up call for me that just on my own, I was like, let me explore that. And I realized I probably was resentful because these parents were so big and there was all this stuff happening. And then I didn't feel good enough. And then I wasn't taking chances because I didn't feel good enough. And then that was really great for me. I feel like the challenge is that whenever it's like, even though that's how society is and there's a lot of you should be this way or that way, the opportunity is that that's just bullshit. Who says you're supposed to be anything but yourself? And here's the thing, we don't realize that we are if there's a supposed to, it's be true to ourselves.
Right.
We don't realize that our inner guidance, like we just have to clear out all that garbage that we've been taught and that we're brainwashed into thinking we have to be a certain way. We have to be true to ourselves. So, unfortunately, you were brought up in that way instead of being able to be true to yourself and say, this doesn't feel good. And I understand they went through that, but it's not and it sounds like with you from what we've talked about too, there's a little of you parenting them. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's what I had too. It's like, I have to fill the need of my parents who are so unhealthy. And that's just, it comes from, being unhealthy, being brought up in a family unit that's not healthy, that doesn't know any better, so that as I get older, of course, I've learned, all those times I was unhappy when I was growing up, it was because I wasn't being true to myself. I was putting my parents before me. That's just society. That's just someone telling you. Who tells you? It's like, that's just society saying this is how it should be so that, we can maybe keep people down or keep people small or keep it self-contained instead of being true to yourself. That's what I think.
Yeah. How did you move through the the personal part of like, why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? And then ultimately forgiving life. Like
Right.
how do you?
My
Yeah, right.
Phoenix Rising, my 4-week program is, the first week is forgiving yourself. Second week is forgiving your mother, forgiving your father, then forgiving God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like what happened for me is I was so depressed and so um, not wanting to live anymore. And something cracked open in me, which I talked a little bit about it in the show, where I felt something bigger than me that was telling me it was going to be okay. And it was just I was inwardly guided to do what I needed to do to feel better. Like, there is something to be said for, like, start where you are. It's like, if you're depressed, go move your body. If you're depressed, go walk to the corner. If you're depressed, do something healthy movement wise if you can, so that it changes your physiology. So for me, it meant, going to the master's in spiritual psychology, where I learned how to take responsibility. As soon as I learned to take responsibility for my life, it was like, but the bad news is, like I said, you got to take responsibility. And the good news is, it's all an inside job. One of the things that really helped me was when I really got that my father did not have empathy like me. Like, I spent my whole life trying to get him to see what I saw or think like I thought and take responsibility even before my mom died for things. And when I really understood it was a diagnosis and a mental illness, it freed me. I was like, oh, and all this energy opened up and I had it for myself. And that from that place is where I really started writing my show out and finding other things. I went to a primal scream workshop to
I do that work.
I couldn't even get in touch with my anger. Like 2 years of a master's, and I got into touch with this much of my anger. And then I went to the primal scream workshop and I was like, holy shit. So when all that stuck energy was released, it was about feeling better. And in feeling better, I realized that the question, why did this happen to me, was useless because that was the past already. So how could I thrive became my new question.
Powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was the journey. And for me, so much self-forgiveness. Like I realized I could only forgive my father to the level I forgave myself. It's kind of like love. You can only love someone else to the level you love yourself. And when I recognized that, I was like, oh, it's about me. And I did so much inner child's work I hated myself for trusting my father. I felt like, how could I have not saved her? How did I not see it? I hated myself for not being able to do that. And then it was like, not only did I understand that I couldn't have, but also that who am I to think I could have saved her? It's like things just happen. Like I really got, like in Shakespeare and in my show, I said, there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Yeah, it was bad. My father kills my mother. Or was it good because she got out of her suffering? Or was it bad because I was so devastated for so long? Or was it good because I found my purpose?
Right.
Or maybe it wasn't either, and it just is. You know?
Yeah, it's I think it was the Way the Peaceful Warrior, Dan Millman tells that good luck, bad luck
Right, with the
story
horse,
in there.
right, and the broken arm and the war.
Right, they took him to war. He couldn't go. Right, exactly.
That opened my mind. Yeah, it's the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
The same
yeah.
thing. Although I would say, yeah, it's not good or bad. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you based your show on Shakespeare because I often talk about that I feel like the things that I learned in acting were really like spirituality 101, acting as if, immersing ourselves in imaginary circumstances. First rule of improv is say yes to everything,
Yeah, say yes
whatever it is, right?
Oh my God, if everybody could live like that, life would be better. It would be
Right?
better.
Right. And so then Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage, all the men and women merely players. And so I find that if I'm able to create just a little bit of distance between my soul and my character, like the
Yeah.
character that my soul chose to play in this lifetime, then instead of being in suffering, I could be in like gratitude and fascination with what a complex character my soul gets to play,
I love
and
that.
the story that I chose, like from an acting standpoint, it's like what are the roles that we like the best or the juiciest?
Yeah.
It's the ones with the most dysfunction, the most suffering, the most challenge, like where we have to like triumph over adversity. We're not the vanilla roles,
Yeah,
right?
I think part of it is because we get to tap into those parts of ourselves because we all have everything in us. But in everyday life, it's like, you're not going to be like screaming like that. And yet in these characters, we get to tap into that. It's so healing because it's, as long as you're healthy, you're on stage in this year with these people or with the audience instead of like actually being in it.
Well,
And
and that's exactly right, because that, I do talk about that too. That is what happens sometimes, is that actors over identify with the role that they're playing, and then they become tormented by their characters, and they become impossible to be around, and they have to
yeah.
isolate
Or they
themselves,
fall in
and
love with their co-stars when they're not
or
actually really in
whatever.
love with them. Not that I ever
Right.
did that. Yeah.
No, we don't know anything about those kind of
Good thing I'm
experiences.
just myself in this show. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I give thanks for that um, that body of work that helps me to look at my life in that way and create just enough distance that I can like pull myself out of the suffering to see the opportunity that this role is.
Yeah, I
And
love that.
yeah, and it's all about, getting to the other side of it and being able to tell the story and have compassion for other people.
Yeah, the role I
Yeah.
get to play in my show is so complex. That's why I was talking to you about how I think, I want to publish it and perhaps have other people play it. I think I was talking to you about it because it would be super cool. Like it's such a complex, amazing role. Like when I look at it as, oh, it's not my life, and I do a little of that now. A little bit of like, yeah, this is a really cool role. There's so much juiciness, because
Yeah.
if you're playing a role like the one I'm playing, if it wasn't my life, it would be such a juicy role that I'd be diving into just the same.
So just for fun, who would you love to see play your role if you could cast anybody in
Oh,
it?
that's so interesting. I remember when I was younger, I thought of like Marissa Tomei playing it.
Oh,
She,
wow.
she went to the
I
same high
totally
school as
see that.
me, but now it's probably someone younger. I don't know who, because as my role, I'd have someone play it that was probably would love to jump around the stage a lot more than I do right now. So I don't know who that is.
I love that. That's great. So what are you working on now? What's next? What's coming up next for you?
Well, I am focused on my online business. Actually, I'm doing an acting class. I've never done just like a drop in acting class for people. I usually do 6-week programs, 8-week programs, or longer. And I just thought I want more fun in my life. And so I thought, let me open it up to new people that might just come for, if I do a monthly acting class. So I'm starting that Friday. I'm doing one of those. I know,
Awesome.
I'm so excited.
Where are
And
you
I
doing it?
priced it ridiculous. It's $10, but I'm like, I would love to just have a place for people to play. It's not necessarily about storytelling, which is what I mainly teach. So it's virtual on Zoom. What'd you have?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
where are you doing it? I thought you were
so I'm
doing it
pretty
someplace in
excited
LA.
about that. I do have a second show that I'm thinking about that I started.
Mm-hmm.
That I put 8 minutes of it up earlier this year, and I like to explore my life in writing and actually presenting, and so that's material has come forward for me with that. And then I'm just doing my business. I have a membership, Soul Story Lounge, because it's teaching storytelling and presentation tools, but it's also the backstage, like what happens when you've lived through this stuff and you're like, I want to share, I have such a message to share, but I don't know how to do it without feeling bad, or I don't know how to do it, um, I don't have the skills or stuff like that. So the lounge is very much like that. Like when we were on the other day, we were both wearing our robes. It's the same thing. Like on our mastermind calls, people can come however they are. It's not like flashy trailer. Look what you see. Everything's great. It's like, this is what life is like. And then what
Real
can I
life,
do to
yeah.
make life better by sharing who I am? People don't have to be
Mm-hmm.
alone if they know that you've lived through something like they did, something like that.
Absolutely.
Yes,
You hold a big space.
acting class. Oh, I have it up. Yes, it's gonna be so much fun. I'm so excited. Geo. Yeah,
Yeah,
Friday.
so what
Friday.
so when you pop off, I would love for you to stick around and put whatever links into the thread here for people that want
Oh,
to
great.
follow you
Great.
and find out more about what you're doing.
Because I am gonna bring back my forgiveness course, Phoenix Rising, pretty soon too. I've just done a few rounds of that, so I'll do a little bit about that. I have so much going on. I have a summit that I'm co-hosting. Stop Writing, Start Selling, in another week or so too. I just feel like, I don't know, I'm just on fire. Like I feel like the pandemic was a real slowdown for everybody, and I feel like it's not like I've wasted time. It's like I have so much more I want to do, and I feel like the pandemic was just another like reminder that tomorrow is not promised. Nothing is promised.
Mm-mm.
So how can I
Mm-mm.
contribute today, and how can I do it though in a way that I feel a lot of joy and not pressure? How do I stay in my center despite all the distractions of the world, you know? And what do I want to do? And that's why I'm also adding the acting class, because I do a lot of really deep, you know, deep healing work. And it's like, well, what would be fun?
Have some fun.
Exactly. Take
Yeah.
people on the journey, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
excellent, excellent.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming on, and best wishes on all you're up to. And I hope some people jump on these things because you're tremendous,
Thank you. And then
tremendous.
I guess I just send people to this link to find the replay as well.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'll send it to you, and I'm also gonna upload it to YouTube. I could send you that too.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. All right,
So
sweetie.
wonderful to
Thank
see
you.
you. Hi to everybody.
Welcome.
Reach out if you have any questions, and I'll post some stuff in here. Some
Okie doke.
goodies. Right. Bye.
Goodbye. Wowza, that was epic. Thank you, Brenda. Whew. I'm feeling the intensity of this subject matter. Healing the hate that hurts. I just want to invite us all to be with that for a moment. Whatever that means to you. For me, it's very deep, and it's like pointing to a dark, secret shame that many of us do everything in our power to hide and to mask and to push down, while it silently torments us. Some of us don't even have the ability to identify it, to describe what it is that is gnawing at us. Yet we understand about toxicity in our vibe, and so we become self-conscious and oftentimes can isolate because we are ashamed that we are walking around feeling these things while other people don't seem to, because maybe they mask it better than we do, or if they act it out, it is disturbing or distasteful to us. And it's like a silent killer. If we don't address it, then it comes out sideways, and it comes out in aggression, and it comes out as violence and road rage and depression and grief. And if we don't express it, it can make us physically ill. It can give us things like ulcers and cancer and migraines and an endless list of ways in which our unexpressed negative emotions wreak havoc and create dis-ease in our bodies, in our psyches, in our hearts, in our field. And so if you've been with us since the beginning, I talk about that, you know, we address things on the micro and the macro level. Certainly right now, we are seeing the results of this pent up hatred coming out in profoundly aggressive ways. And there is so much suffering going on all sides as, people with conscience and with humanitarian hearts and sensibilities want to see the violence, the bloodshed, the evil to stop, and they don't know how to make it stop without taking a violent counteraction. And all we see out there is a projection of what we have unhealed in here. So even though it is uncomfortable and painful to be with the unhealed hate in our own hearts, the only way that we can hope to have compassion for others is to first turn that compassion in towards ourselves and hold space for the healing of our own hearts. Because if we are born into families of origin in which the circumstances are very unsavory for whatever reason, or we're born into a wonderful family of origin, and then somewhere along the line some sort of blindsiding tragedy occurs, and we don't understand. We don't understand why bad things happen, why evil happens. And so consequently, we can feel cursed, or we can feel profoundly unlucky, or we could feel unworthy, like we don't deserve the gift of life. We don't deserve to have a good life or a happy life. And sometimes we can't figure out the reason why, and we start to question of whether, we did something terrible in a past life that we are having to pay for in this life. And so we turn all that pain and shame and fear and confusion inward, and that is a recipe for so much turmoil within as we try to function and we try to maintain a facade of normalcy and reasonableness. And then we try to manage it in covert ways, whether we self-medicate, or whether we become love addicted, or we become workaholics, or road rage, all these different ways that, or we exercise too much, or we become an anorexic bulimic. It's like we're trying to control something, and we feel so alone and isolated, like there's something fundamentally wrong with us. And so it's, can you feel what an insidious sabotage these type of thoughts that run wild in our systems and undermine our gratitude for the miracle of getting to be alive, and undermine our peace, and undermine our optimism and vision and sense of possibility for ourselves. And then that becomes this self-fulfilling loop of negativity, where we just keep drawing more and more and more pain and heartache and disappointment into our experience. Anybody here relating to anything that I'm saying? Please drop a comment. or if you care to come on and chat with me, we are here for another hour and 20 minutes, and I would love to converse with you and hold space for your perspective and wisdom to be shared. And if you're tuning in for the first time, this is my new weekly program, Voices of the Global Awakening, Tuesdays with Tess from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific Time. This is episode 12, Healing the Hate That Hurts. And my intention, you can relate, yeah. I'm happy for you to come on and talk if you feel to. So this is a topic that I actually have done a talk on before, and certainly since this attack took place on October 7th at the Israeli border in Gaza. It's become acute. This pain that is directly tied into the visceral understanding and compassion for the very toxic experience of hatred. You know, they say that everything is either an expression of love or a call for love. And for anyone to hate as much as those who have wreaked this havoc, I'm choosing my words carefully, while it's easy to assume that they are beyond rehabilitation. It's easy to assume that if they have been steeped in this level of bitterness from childhood, that it could be impossible to discharge that pain that is in their hearts, that is fueling these outrageous, violent attacks. And yet, if we apply what I was saying, talking with Brenda about all the world being a stage and all the men and women merely players, and this program is called Voices of the Global Awakening, and part of my mission and desire is to support all of us in connecting to the deeper truth of our divine origins, that we were all conceived by a creative intelligence beyond our capacity to understand it, and that every character on the world stage has been conceived and carefully crafted by this divine intelligence for the sake of the play. And the challenge is that we, as divine souls who are actually blessed and privileged to get to have been given a role, to get to be incarnated, and get to be in this dimension where we have the miracle of our senses that we get to engage with every single day. And what a miracle and a privilege it actually is to be alive. If we actually knew that and we weren't over-identified with the characters that we were playing, but we actually simply saw them as vessels and vehicles through which we get to act in this dimension, we could alleviate a lot of the suffering in our own hearts. And instead of being enraged at the roles we've been cast in, we could actually come to a point of feeling blessed. Blessed that we get to be here. And as we stand in that place of feeling blessed, we get to look around us and realize how blessed each and every one of us is. And also get to realize that no matter how much we learn and no matter how much we think that we conquer, we will only ever be characters in this play. And perhaps we can cultivate some humility and some appreciation and some trust that there is a story unfolding that we are each a part of, and the story is so much greater than us. And if we can surrender our wounded egos and our will to force things into existence and to rail against what is taking place on the world stage, then we stand a chance of aligning ourselves with the light. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. My rod and my staff comfort me. That I am purely a privileged vessel, that I get to be here in this body, in this play, and that I release any programmed ideas that I get to conduct or direct how the play goes. If I simply surrender to it, I stand a better chance of experiencing a more grace-filled journey than if I am in resistance to the journey that I'm experiencing. Is this making sense? After 9/11, it was suggested to me that I write a song about what's going on in the Middle East. And it's interesting how when that happens, it's like I get this divine assignment that is offered to me externally, and I channel something in 20 minutes that is very profound, and in those cases often feels like it's a direct communication from the mother. And so I wrote this song called Peace in the Middle East that I then was invited by a UN affiliate called the Women's Federation for World Peace International, that I got to sing for 6,000 Israeli and Palestinian women in Jerusalem on my birthday. So it was very, very auspicious. And at the time, I thought that all the prayer work, I was with a delegation of 600 women from 130 nations. And I thought that all the prayer work that we had done had established a foundation of peace in the Middle East, and that it would simply be a matter of time before we would see that peace, which, in my understanding, the Middle East is the heart of the body of the Mother Earth. And so Mother Earth, Middle East, me, M-E, where does peace begin? In the heart of this body. And there was such fervent intention in this group that I'm rather surprised that we have landed in this place with this level of unrest. And again, as it's said, that love drives everything, unlike itself, up for healing. So I am hoping that we are looking at the last gasp of the unhealed pain in the collective, and perhaps through our compassion, through our humanity, through the healing power of music, to bypass the defenses and open hearts and shift consciousness, we will have a global awakening, and we will achieve the 1,000 years of peace that has been promised us. But, so far when I've been singing on here, I've been singing a cappella, but I'm going to try and see if you can hear, because this is not like the most sophisticated way for me to be broadcasting, but I figured I'll reach the most people at least to start with. So I'm going to try to play my backing tracks for this and sing this song for you, which I will actually be singing live again along with another song this Sunday at the Vision Center for Spiritual Living in San Diego for their 10 a.m. New Thought service Sunday on the 29th of October. So I already put up a post about that on my page. If you're in town and interested, you are welcome. And I believe it's also going to be broadcast, and the website is there as well. So this is my song, Peace in the Middle East. Can you hear that? Irrational hatred, conditioned from birth, nations divided by lines drawn in earth, civilization, how far have we come? Time to remember, in truth we are one. Unnatural borders, illusions of mind, children of mothers, your killing is blind. Ancient agendas, what price do we pay? Suicide bombings, dreams bleeding away. Let there be peace in the Middle East. Let harmony span all across the lands. Never before have we won with war. The only relief lies in being the peace. From New York to Baghdad, Tibet to Peru, the nations of Islam, Jerusalem too. The world is your country, a people your tribe, a rainbow-faced family. Together we thrive. Let there be peace in the Middle East. Let harmony span all across the lands. Never before have we won with war. The only relief lies in being the peace. An eye for an eye never evens the score. Two wrongs don't make right, just excuses for more. We each get to choose how we live till we die. The first to call truce takes the road that is high. Let there be peace in the Middle East. Let harmony span all across the lands. Never before have we won with war. The only relief lies in being the peace in the Middle East. Let harmony span all across the lands. Never before have we won with war. The only relief lies in being the peace. Let's all start being the peace. Come on and live now in peace. Let's all start being the peace. So how do we do that? How do we start being the peace? Thank you. Love what you're saying and singing, Tess. Mara Fran. Gio, amazing. I'd be available to come on for a brief time. Okay, let's do that. Resume. Sorry about that. See if I can.
Greetings, Tess and community.
Greetings, Gio. Welcome.
Let's see. I had you on my Bluetooth. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay.
Perfectly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
man, what a beautiful song! Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Wow. Dang. Can you describe a little bit like what was the scene like when you were singing that song at the event?
In Israel?
Yes. I didn't even know exactly where it was exactly. So yeah. What was that? What did that look like? What was that?
It was amazing. It was so it was in Independence Park, which is like the Central Park of Jerusalem.
Mm.
And it was outside of the King David Hotel, which is where the delegation of 600 women from the UN organization, the Women's Federation for World Peace International, we were all staying there.
Wow.
And when I had been contacted and invited to sing, I was contacted by the Western region president of the UN NGOs, the UN non-governmental organizations, who I had met at an International Day of Peace event that was happening at the Buddhist Friendship Center in Los Angeles after 9/11. And she started talking about this women's initiative for peace in the Middle East, and it was taking place on my birthday, and I had sung there, and I went up to her, and I had this packet for this global healing concert project that I had been invited to, that I was wanting to produce from the site of the former death camp at Auschwitz, where both my parents had been imprisoned, and that project was called 6 Million Candles Concert at Auschwitz. And so I went up to this woman and I said to her, I think I'm supposed to be singing at your event. I said, this is a women's initiative for peace in the Middle East. My song is called Peace in the Middle East, and the event is taking place on my birthday.
If that's not a bunch of signs.
Yeah, and so she was like, well, I'm about to get on a flight to Geneva. Let me take your information with me, and I'll reach out to you. And so then, oh, you're going to appreciate this. I started journaling because it was many weeks before I heard from her, and many weeks before the event was going to be taking place. And I started journaling from like a reverse engineering place, from already having done the concert in Israel.
Perfect.
Yeah, like talking about what it was like and what it felt like, and all of it. And so it was the Sunday before the entire delegation was getting on a plane on Friday, so 6 days. She called me and she said, we're 600 women. We have one sponsorship. We want to take you, but we can't promise you that you're going to get to sing. And because we asked the Israeli government for 4 hours, but for security reasons, they're only giving us 3. And I knew that I'm speaking to a very sort of responsible, grounded 3D bureaucrat. And so I'm not going to argue spiritual logic with her. Yes, I'd be honored to come. But in my heart, I knew there was just no way God was schlepping me there to be a bench warmer, you know? So the night before the event, or the afternoon before the event, we were sent out in buses that seated 12 people, and we were brought to neighborhoods, and then we were divided into 2 groups of 6 each, and we went canvassing door to door in Israeli neighborhoods, in Palestinian neighborhoods, in elegant neighborhoods, in bombed out rubble neighborhoods. And we had a piece of paper to hand out, a flyer with the invitation in English, Hebrew, and Arabic, and inviting women, because it was understood that the entire Middle East crisis is a women's issue of jealousy and betrayal between Sarah and her handmaiden Hagar that has been going back over 2,000 years. So the women are the mothers, the women are the peacemakers, the women are the ones that every child is their child. And so if the women actually were the impetus of this feud between cousins, then the women are the ones that need to resolve it, because they're still more in their hearts than, you know, from the archetypal program perspective. So it was very profound. And then we came back to the hotel for dinner, and one of them said, if anybody would like to sit and debrief about the experience, please stay in the dining room after dinner. So most everybody left. About 30 of us stayed, and we cleared away the tables, and we made this circle, and we're sitting in this circle. And I didn't know that a lot of women in this organization were evangelical preachers from the Reverend Sun Young Moon influence. And if anybody doesn't know who that was, Reverend Sun Young Moon is the missionary minister who rented out Madison Square Garden in New York after the Vietnam War and cross-pollinated the Vietnamese culture with the American culture by facilitating thousands and thousands of marriages at Madison Square Garden
Wow.
between American GIs and Vietnamese
Wow.
to heal. And so this sister organization, the Women's Federation for World Peace International, was created by Reverend Sun Myung Moon's wife as a way for sisters from warring nations to extend an olive branch. You know, actually what we did, we crossed this bridge of peace, two at a time from like warring nations, and met in the middle. We bowed to each other. We exchanged roses. We exchanged contact information, and we hugged each other. And that was this healing that this organization was facilitating all over the world. And so a lot of these women were evangelical preachers. And so this one said, sisters, we have come here to anchor peace in the Middle East. No kidding. Not like some far off someday fantasy, but a here and now reality. We all know that God is not hard of hearing, but it takes time for things to move from the etheric realm down to the physical plane.
Yes.
But once our work is done here, our work will be done. And so she said, there is a Hagar in this room that needs to testify. And if anybody doesn't know the biblical story, so Sarah was married to Abraham, and Abraham had amassed this huge fortune, and Sarah had not produced an heir, and she was like 100 years old, and he was over 100 years old, and so she enlisted her handmaiden, an Egyptian girl who had been her slave girl, well-treated slave girl, for her whole life. And she enlisted her to sleep with her husband and to produce an heir. But as things happen, just like when people can't have a baby and they decide to adopt and the pressure is off, and so now they conceive. So now Sarah, at 100 years old, became pregnant with Isaac.
Okay.
And she didn't like the idea that Hagar, the slave girl's bastard child, Ishmael, who was born first and would be the first in line for the inheritance.
Yes.
And so she insisted that that Abraham cast her and Ishmael out into the desert. And even though by this point, obviously, Abraham had feelings for her, she was the mother of his child, for Hagar, he honored his wife of 70, 80 years, and so with a heavy heart, he cast them out. But the bitterness in Hagar, who this was the only family, the only life that she had ever known, and she was sent out with a child, and so the sins of the father, so she infused her bitterness in Ishmael, and Ishmael became the father of the nations of Islam, and Isaac became the father of the 12 tribes of Israel.
Okay. Wow. See, that's a story I'd never heard before.
Yeah. So the whole thing is a women's
Wow.
thing of jealousy
Yeah.
and betrayal.
Wow.
So she said, so we have a Hagar in this room who needs to testify. Hagar, present yourself. And all of a sudden, this little Pakistani woman was standing in the center of the circle. And the first woman, she's agitated and she's pacing. And she said she needs a Sarah to testify to. And again, I didn't know that these women have done this kind of stuff before, and that, you know, they talk in tongues and do all this amazing stuff. And all of a sudden, and I'd never heard of any of this, channeling anything, this energy grabbed me by my solar plexus and pulled me out of my seat. And I was standing in the center of this circle with this little Pakistani woman, and I took her in my arms and I asked her forgiveness for what I had done to her.
Wow.
And then, and this started off this thing that went on for hours till like 2 o'clock in the morning. And so now we crossed the threshold into my birthday. It was now after midnight, so it was my birthday. And then she was like, and what about our black sisters and what we've done to them? And then all of a sudden there was this big archetypal black woman in the circle with me, and my knees gave out from under me, and I was face down, prostrate in front of her, begging forgiveness for what the whites have done to the blacks.
Mm.
And then she said, well, what about the Germans and the Jews? Now I'm in my home court, right? And all of a sudden this German woman comes into the circle, and I'm there the whole time. I'm just like doing all this, right? I don't even know why. I was just like, it just took me and I'm doing it. And this German woman came into the circle, and you would think she would have been begging for my forgiveness, right? But instead, I asked her forgiveness for at the time, 60 plus years of non-forgiveness on behalf of the Jewish people. Because the way I was raised is that when somebody dies, we grieve for a year and we move on. And every year between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the Jewish New Year and the Day of Atonement, we have 10 days of forgiveness and wiping the slate clean. And the Holocaust and 6 million souls and 12 million people is so big that we have not been able to assimilate it into our own doctrine.
Mm.
Right? And so I did this thing, which when I came home and I told my mother about it, she was very upset with me, because she was like, who are you to do this? You know what I mean? This is God's domain. This is not, you don't get to do that, right? But
Wow.
that's what I was guided to in that circle. And so this went on until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and the next day was the event. And there we were in front of 6,000 Israeli and Palestinian women, like completely,
Wow.
yeah. And I said the thing, and I spoke about it being my birthday, and one of the women that I had done the rose ceremony with the day before was an Arabic girl whose birthday was the day before mine.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so I called out to her in acknowledgement of our mutual birthday, and then I said what I said here, where the heart is located in the body. It's in the Middle East. And, where do we begin to heal the heart of the body of Mother Earth, if not in the Middle East? Mother Earth, Middle East, me,
Wow.
M-E-M-E. Yeah, and then I shared the song, and
That song that you just sang.
yeah, and it was
So wait a minute, I gotta just like dial this and fine tune this a little bit. So you're up on stage, and there's 6,000 women in front of you.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I wish I had in front of me the postcard that I had made, because it was like, I found out on Sunday, I got my plane ticket and a rush passport on Monday. I made copies of singles of that CD so I could give it out to people, and I created a flyer, not a flyer, a postcard that I could give out with my contact information. That it was like Wednesday afternoon. The deadline for printing was 4 o'clock, and this was at like 3:15. I'm sitting outside with my ex-husband and our friend that we were traveling with, and we're trying to come up with a caption of what we wanted to say on this postcard in order to make the deadline to get it back on Thursday so I could get on the plane on Friday, right? And one of us said something about a voice of global awakening, and my friend said, no, the voice of global awakening. And I was like, I can't stand there. I'm not the only one there. I'm just one of so many. And he's like, no, you have to use your I am power and claim it for yourself. And so that is where the origin of the name of this program came
Okay.
from. It was the voice of global awakening. And so anyway, yeah. So what happened was that I took the picture with this really long curly wig that came down to my butt, and there's a whole story that goes why that was. But I was standing there on that stage in front of 6,000 Israeli and Palestinian women that looked just like me with that wig on my head.
Oh
Like I
yeah.
looked like I was representing all of them. I was representing every single woman in that place. And and it was like archetypally, I was standing there as this like biblical, you know, voice of the
Wow.
oppressed, of the people that don't get to speak for
Wow.
themselves, you
Wow.
know,
Wow. That's
because
so powerful on just so many levels, and I got to go back to the beginning point of the story that, like I said, I didn't know that story of the splitting of the, right? It sounds like that's the splitting of the Islamic and Jewish foundation and everything. And that's a surprising thing because it surprises me that I don't know that, but I'm always excited to find out something I didn't know. But that's such a big thing. That's such a big thing. And wow, the whole story is just phenomenal to me. I've always been pretty aware of this little known thing. I don't know if it's little known, but maybe it's just not spoken of much. But how so many powerful movements originate with women, and this is just just one more in so many, and it's seems so obvious, right, that the fighting is not going to solve the problem. There is just no way, and it does even though it looks horrible right now and all this, I do have a certain amount of hope in terms of, like, there is all this energy up for finding a solution, and it almost seems like, at least from my perspective, which, who am I, but you there's equal empathy for both sides of that story and that split and everything, and that needs to be right. It needs to be, there needs to be equal voice on both sides of the story. So as tragic as it is, it's up now, and the moment is fertile, right? And I think you said something that was very germane too, which is, time. Like, we have a very limited sense of time, and I'm as we're kind of talking about this, I've been recently reading a bit about, well, I've been reading the autobiography of a yogi. And so Paramahansa Yogananda, he's a keen historian, and also added a lot to my lack of knowledge about the Indian history, and how India had been a majestic empire for thousands of years, and then it had its tragedies as well. But then it found its way back, but over the course of time that is hard for us to kind of conceive in a certain way, right? We sort of see Gandhi as the moment, but they reclaimed their glory, and they're going through moments again. But I guess I just say all this because our sense of time is very limited. So I'm just
yeah.
yeah.
In fact, so the upshot of that story of my experience doing all that clearing and healing and forgiveness work, leading into my birthday, leading into this big event in the heart of the body of the mother, it was like, I need to stop watching the news. That started then. That started back then,
Mm,
where it was like like holding the portal open into the other side where peace reigns. Like
yeah.
like some of us have to already be there to hold the space for people to come into.
Yeah.
And it's challenging because, certainly with everything that's going on, it's very easy to get sucked into it and sucked into the undertow of deep
Totally.
despair, you
Yeah.
know, and B, you kind of look like you're insane if you're not suffering about it,
Yeah.
right? You look like you're a sociopath or something. And so it's just like an interesting line to walk, because in order to me, like I always go to the Albert Einstein quote that we cannot solve a problem at the level that it was created. We have to come to a higher plane of it, and that higher plane has to be loving compassion, empathy, and forgiveness. It has to be.
Yeah.
It can't exist any place else, because otherwise we're just, back and forth building up this um, vendetta against one another.
Yeah.
And and it's like, in order for us to step into the oneness, we have to get past the illusion of separation. We have to see that every single one that exists is another ourselves, and that every single one here is a carefully crafted character by the one creator. Like, we all come from the same source, and we all return to the same source. And if those, it's like the Luciferian theory that Lucifer was God's like right hand, in order to be willing to portray so much darkness in one's human experience, one has to be a formidable soul in order to be able to carry all that. And so if we, did you ever read Conversations with God, Neil Donald Walsh's book?
I don't think so. I saw a little bit of his, his movie and such, or the places where, he's been, in film media.
Okay. Well, he told a story in there that was so appreciated. I've shared about this before. You may have heard me. That was so appreciated that he lifted it out of there and published it again, just as a little illustrated children's book.
Mm.
And it was the story of this beam of light that so desperately wanted to know itself as the light. It went to God and said, "I want to know myself as the light." And God said, "What is there to know, my child? You're the light. There's nothing else for me to tell you. You're the light." And the beam said, "No, no, no, but I want to really experience it. I can't feel it. It's, the light is all there is. I can't feel it." And God said, "My child, in order for you to know yourself as the light, I'm going to have to send you out into the darkness. And
Ah.
and it's going to be miserable. It's just going to be awful. You're going to feel lonely and scared and horrified, and the little beam said, "I don't care. I want to know myself as the light." And the other beams came over and said, "You know what? We love you so much that we are willing to portray the darkness in your life experience so that you can know yourself as a light. But the problem is that we are going to portray our roles so thoroughly and convincingly that we're going to forget that we're actually really the light too."
Mm.
So your job is to promise that once you remember, you're going to help us remember too.
Ah.
So it's kind of amazing, like, how extreme, to what lengths our creator has written this story for these characters to go to, for us to like find it within ourselves to forgive them. And that was why it was so important to me to have Brenda come on and talk about her personal real life story. And if you weren't here, were you here at the beginning?
I was not here for the beginning, no.
Brenda, this is a true story. This woman was on this call. When you can go back and watch the replay.
Back and listen, yeah.
Her one woman show, award-winning show she's done all over the world, is called My Brooklyn Hamlet, because it is so Shakespearean in its tragedy. Her father murdered her mother and married her mother's sister.
Wow.
Before he was discovered.
Is that a show that she's running right now?
She just did it for one night up in LA last.
Oh, that's the show that you went to. Okay, I heard you talking about that. Okay.
Yes,
wow.
That was
wow. She only did it for one night, huh?
She only did it for one night. Now she's done it. She's been doing it for 15 years.
Oh, okay.
She's done it all over the world, and she just had an opportunity to be part of a fringe festival.
Wow.
So she participated in it.
Wow.
But yeah, and so she's got a master's degree in spiritual psychology, and she also has been on forgiveness council. She's,
Mm.
so ultimately she forgave her dad. That's the whole point.
Wow,
She forgave,
that's super. That's unheard of.
right?
Yeah.
Right. And I said to her when we were having a private conversation yesterday that, you know, I feel like I have a lot of inner strength. My takeaway from my Holocaust survivor mother is that I can survive anything. That's what I got from her.
Mm.
Yet, when I look at my mother, I thought I couldn't possibly have survived what my mother survived. And then I looked at Brenda and I heard her show and I thought, I don't know if I could have survived what she survived either.
I can imagine.
And to be sane and to be
Yeah,
relatively
yeah,
sane.
yeah, yeah.
And,
To bring forgiveness to it. That's I mean, that's as powerful as any even global forgiveness, right? Of
exactly. So again, it's micro macro. It's like, how can we do this in our personal lives? And what I started to talk about when you asked to come on is like, so my song says, the only relief is in being the peace. Let's all start being the peace. But it's like, well, how do we do that?
mm, yeah,
How
yeah,
how do we be, and not just like spiritually bypass and give rhetoric to,
yeah.
well,
I
light and
think
love
that's
and
yeah,
all
that's
that.
very
Oh,
the spiritual bypass is what a lot of people do, and I recognize that like in a heartbeat. I'm like yawn, because that is so often done in in circles of light in all this. Uh, it does seem like in a certain way. I mean, I know there's a complexity to it in terms of the forgiveness and all, but there is something about the theater and the movement and the breath and the sound and the singing and everything. So I mean, what you described, I mean, you described the macro in terms of what your experience was there in Israel. I mean, that's like the macro experience. And man, I mean, I know it, like you said, it must be disappointing to see, this happening right now. And maybe in your mind, you're like, that was going to heal it all. And I'm sure it did a lot. But man, I just encourage you to continue on, and use that tool that you worked so well there, which is starting from the end and going backwards, and just continue to write right from the end and
thank you.
imagine from the end, because I see no limit to what you can do and you've already done. So I'm in awe.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So for me, it was like identifying that on a certain level, I suspect that many, if not most of us, are carrying some sort of a secret shame um, uh, for um, hating something about the life that we were born
For
into.
sure. Yeah, I concur for sure.
And so it's like that insidious shame becomes
Yeah.
self-hatred, and it gets compounded as we try to hide it, because we become more and more isolated, more and more bitter, more and more angry, and then we're looking at the world through this wounded
Hmm.
filter in which everything is wrong.
Yeah, yeah, and
Everything is wrong.
it's completely non-logical too, is what I would add to it. And that's why theater and music and psychodrama and different things like this are so useful, because like I heard you before I came on, it sounded like you were trying to bring some logic to it. And I don't think that there is much logic to it, but I think that there is an expression of, like you said, the expression of the hatred, or maybe even before that, expression of the shame of the hatred.
Well, for me, I think that the saving grace is the application of my theatrical studies to apply the Shakespearean, all the world's a stage, all the men and women merely players.
Totally.
And if we look at ourselves as characters in our Creator's divine play, and instead of what happens to some actors that over identify with their role, and get lost in it and then get overcome by despair and torment because their character's circumstances are so devastating. But a healthy actor has a bit of perspective and goes, this is just a role I'm playing.
Absolutely.
And because I know that it's a role, I can play the heck out of it. I can sink my teeth into it, because what are the best roles to have? The best roles to have are the ones that are the most complex, that are the most challenged, that are the most dysfunctional, not the ones that are all like easy peasy vanilla. We don't want those parts. We want the ones we can sink our teeth into. And so if we can see ourselves as divine, imperishable souls that are miraculous, like if we get back in touch with the miraculousness of the sheer fact of our existence, we step away from the story, just like it's a freaking mind-blowing miracle that we exist, that no one is ever going to explain how we get to be here, with stories, with characters, with personalities, with idiosyncrasies, with preferences, with allergies, with afflictions, with handicaps, with all these various kinds of things that we have. And and instead of being put upon by those things and burdened by them and feel sorry for ourselves and bitter and resentful, like, why is this my lot in life? And instead go, wow, what a character I have been given to play.
Yeah. I really feel something there. And, I'll make a connection to something that's fascinating me recently. And then I got to jump off. I'm headed off to yoga class here. But I don't know how this came to me. Somebody was doing a Facebook posting about something along these lines, about the intensity of emotion and different things like that, and I know about feeling trapped. How we could feel so trapped, and life just traps us in these situations. And all of a sudden, my brain kind of clicked to this thing, which is escape rooms, and how funny it is that people like to pay money to go to escape rooms, because an escape room basically allows you to do what you just described, which is to be trapped in an environment. And there's something that's thrilling about that, kind of like you said, about playing a character that has a lot of flaws and depth and things like that. So it does strike me that there's something there, because people already like to they like to go to rage rooms. We talked about that. And they like to go to escape rooms that trap them in situations, and
Right.
They pay money to do it.
Right. And so if we can get in touch with that sense of thrill that we get to play these parts, then we no longer hate ourselves. We start to love ourselves right there.
Yeah.
Right there. It's like, wow, what a rich, crazy, convoluted character I've been given to play. And now that I know that I'm playing a character, now I have some awareness to go, well, how do I want to play it? How do I want my character to evolve? Like, again, maybe going to the end, like, because if each of us are on our own, what is it called? Hero's journey, like our own, like, hero's soul journey, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, then we're all the star of our own life show. And we all have the opportunity to transcend our circumstances to the happy ending. Like, we don't have to go to the miserable ending.
Yeah. I think the only difference between the escape room or the escape experience or the rage room that makes it pleasurable is the funny little mechanism of that we know it's going to come to an end. Right. Which is something that we all kind of have within our imagination, anyways. Right. And it's just a little flick of a switch that, what the worst things that we could come into in life, and that we do come into life, always come to an end. They do. Yeah. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
And we don't know what comes next. So the thing that we're so afraid of could be the most wonderful thing in the world. So
it often seems to be that way. That is the hero story.
Yeah.
That is the hero story right there. The hero goes into the tragedy, and then has a realization and a transformation, and that's how we live and learn and advance. So
Yeah,
I
for
think you
sure.
got something there.
Yeah. Hey, well, I appreciate you coming on.
All right, great. Keep up the good work, Jess. I'll talk to you later.
All right, darling. Thank you. Okay. And here, Bella Grace, the CEO I used to work for. Oops, I lost it. Said all business is show business. Our client conferences were a blast. Escape rooms are a blast to do with a group of friends because it requires teamwork to find the clues to escape. Cool. I've always felt a little fear that I might be too claustrophobic for that. Let me scroll back a little bit. I see Anna. Oh, Jeff, I saw that already. Hi, everybody. Hi, Tess. Good to see you. I'm in good company on the streaming. Yeah, for sure. What else is here? So I see Brenda brought her information on here. If you want to reach out and connect with her, please do. I'm seeing some people I adore here. If you're all still here, that would be tremendous. Yeah, I made a decision this week. Instead of doing the advance invitation, which I think creates a container around the live stream, and then it's not actually broadcasting on my public page, which was why I was doing it on Facebook to begin with, so that I would be able to access all the people that are my friends that would maybe not see it otherwise. Awesome conversation. Thank you so much. Art frees us. It certainly does. So anyway, our topic today is healing the hate that hurts. If any of you have a desire to come on and chat with me, we've got about 25 minutes left, but I'm really, um, you know, rather than dealing with the symptoms of hate and rage, which on a certain level seem impossible to deal with and cause us to only want to fight fire with fire, which just keeps perpetuating. It seems to get to the root, like what is behind that hatred. And it is said that everything is either an expression of love or a call for love. And so if it's a call for love, then that would suggest that there is tremendous hurt underneath it. And so how do we dismantle that hate, which manifests so violently, both outwardly and inwardly, to hold a field of compassion where that hate can dissolve and the hurt can be felt to the point where the energy can move and it can release, and we can offer compassion, and we can offer empathy, and we can bring those who are hurting so greatly back to a state of humanity where they would not dream of harming another because they recognize the other as themselves. So doing this requires a patience and a trust and courage, because it's challenging for us to go inside our own selves to clear away the layers of protection, the armor that become a wall that keep others out and keep ourselves locked in. And even though it's frightening, ultimately it's empowering, because once we understand that we are the source of our own experience, even though it may be painful for us to take responsibility, ultimately it empowers us to shift, because I do believe that as we change, the world changes around us. And as we heal, find a way to heal ourselves, and we shift from resentment to gratitude, then the eyes that we're looking through, the lens that we're perceiving reality through, can change, and we can find more compassion in our hearts. And so then we are looking through eyes of compassion as well, and then we can connect there at that level. So it's kind of like the stories of the tribal cultures, where if someone commits some sort of act of violence or aggression on another member of the tribe, they would put that person in the center of the circle, and they would keep singing their birth song to them, or keep pouring acknowledgments onto them until they remember their true divinity. So I suppose that this is an invitation to all of us to see if we can step back from the intensity of the drama on the world stage and connect in with our compassionate hearts. And we can hold space for this intense experience that's playing out in front of us, knowing ultimately that all is love and all is light, and through our commitment and trust in that, because there is only one source. There is only one source of all that is embodied and emanates here in this dimension. And love drives up everything unlike itself for healing. And so if we see this as a healing opportunity for the whole of existence, this can be the threshold for us to enter into that prophesized 1,000 years of peace. At least that is the position that I am holding, and invite you to join me on. So if you're just joining, this is Voices of the Global Awakening, Tuesdays with Tess, from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific time. This is my 12th consecutive episode, and I am not entirely sure I am going to be able to broadcast the next 2 weeks, because I am leaving next Tuesday morning, which is the 31st, Halloween. I am leaving for a week-long training in Cabo, and I don't know what my time availability nor my reception will be like. And so I will be away from the 31st, and I return back to San Diego on the 9th. So the 31st and the 7th are both Tuesdays. And if it's possible for me to broadcast, I will. That's kind of another reason why I decided not to do the invitation for this week, and instead just put up a couple of notices that I was going to be going live, and hopefully the alert would let you know. And it kind of seems like I might have had more people here today than I have so far, so maybe this is a good strategy. So anyway, so I may or may not be here for the next 2 weeks, but if I'm not, I certainly will return in 3 weeks. God, Goddess willing, and keep feeling into what is at the cutting edge of what I am working on personally, and bring that forth as a conversation for the intention of collective healing and transmutation of all that hurts us. And I do feel that if we can like find that place of gratitude for the miracle and the privilege of getting to exist, of getting to be on the court, to be a character in the divine play, that the more we are in acceptance of that and gratitude for it, the more likely we can move through this experience with increasing grace. And it is our resistance to what is that causes us so much pain. So it makes sense to me to keep surrendering into a trust and acceptance that, I remember going to Agape Science of Mind in Los Angeles shortly after 9/11, and hearing Dr. Reverend Michael Beckwith saying that whatever things look like on a world stage, God has not abdicated to heads of state. And so it requires a phenomenal commitment to trust our benevolent creator, that we are never going to understand the full picture. We lack the objectivity from where we're looking. And so all we can do is trust that there is a higher story unfolding than we have access to viewing from where we're looking. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, how about a song? How about Awakening? Let's do that one. All that I be is a hologram, a thought manifest in the great I am, here for one flash of eternity, one wave on the shore of an endless sea. All that I be is a hologram, a thought manifest in the great I am, here for one flash of eternity, one wave on the shore of an endless sea. I am one with all that is, body, mind, and soul. I am here as peace on earth, one facet of the whole. I deserve to live my life just dancing to the beat. I deserve to be myself with everyone I meet. I deserve to give myself the sun, the moon, the sea. I deserve to see myself in every he and she. I deserve to have it all, yes, every blessed thing. I deserve to have it now, Lord, listen to me sing. And I allow it now, Lord, I allow it now. I allow it now, Lord, I allow it now. Every thought I ever thunk, I need to think anew, to rid my mind of all the junk that kept me apart from you. There's nothing out of bounds, dear Lord, outside your sweet embrace. No woman, man, or creature can sacrifice their place. The only sin in life I know is when I doubt you're near. The only fool thing I could do is spend my time in fear. So I deserve to have it all, yes, every blessed thing. I deserve to have it now, Lord, hear me when I sing. And I allow it now, Lord, I allow it now. I allow it now, Lord, I allow it now. I got one body to care for, one mind, one heart. I got just thee to be there for, so leave me to my part. And I allow it now, Lord, I allow it now. I allow it now, Lord, I allow it now. All that I be is a hologram, a thought manifest in the great I am, here for one flash of eternity, one wave on the shore of an endless sea, one splash on the shore of an endless sea, one crash on the shore of an endless sea. If you are inspired to ways to support the evolution and expansion of this community enrichment offering, I invite you to take a look at all that I posted in the description leading into this live. There are private groups that you can join. I've got the Universal Temple of Expanding Consciousness. I've got Rename the Planet, Planet Peace, which is a suggestion that we start seeing ourselves as ambassadors of planet peace and demonstrate the power of the word through planting this thought seed that even if we think it's a naive idea, every step we take on this planet is a prayer for peace, and that we pass that idea along, and before we know it, we start treating our mother as this sacred living vessel that she is, and rather than the dirt that we have relegated her to. So there's that. There is waking up from the hypnosis of mortal reality. And there is my music. If you want to subscribe to my music on Spotify, it's also on other platforms. There's a Spotify link up there, as well as a few different Cash apps if you would like to contribute those things that say "In God We Trust" on them, to support me in growing this to a more polished and professional version of itself with a bigger team and more bells and whistles, and maybe marketing people who can help spread this vibration and frequency beyond, because ultimately it is a vibrational shift that is going to need to take place in order for us to experience ourselves in a more loving, inclusive, accepting field, and we have to be the ones that we've been waiting for. We have to be the ones who shine our light so bright and hold that portal open so wide that we create a compelling space for others to flock to. And so, as Einstein said, we cannot solve a problem at the level that it was created. We have to move to a higher frequency. And so all of our attention needs to go on creating the world that we wish to live in, and and not give energy to those destructive forces, because those destructive forces stay in place and gain steam through our fear-based, angry, hateful, worried attention to it. So really, this is an opportunity for all of us to look inside ourselves and take stock of our own countenance and ask ourselves, who am I being? Am I being the peace that I want to see in the world? Am I being a stand for there being only one force and not this delusion of two? So I thank you for being here with me and giving me this opportunity to express what is in my heart and to raise some alternative perspectives that perhaps can offer you some spaciousness in your experience. And it all starts with learning to love yourself and have compassion for yourself. And if that is not what you're currently feeling, then This is an invitation to that. This is an invitation for you to see yourself as a perfectly crafted character by our divine playwright or screenwriter who chose your character with your specific details in order to play a part that only you can play. And as long as you are here, you can trust there is a purpose for your being. And even if you just take that as an affirmation into your heart, there is a purpose for my being. There is a divine purpose for my being. Elena, nice to see you and hear your song and words spreading love and light into this world. Thank you. It's nice to see you too. I just saw some wonderful photos of you in Costa Rica. I was visiting Rena, so I'm happy to see you here. Thank you for being here. Peter Rosen is here. Bella Grace, Angel, Timothy, Leah, Anna, Jeff, Tara, Nylan, wonderful. I hope you're all still here. That would be amazing. Brenda, one new comment. You're welcome. Yeah, so it's like to give yourself that spaciousness that even if you never thought of it before, and even if your experience hasn't led you to feel as valued and appreciated as you should. Here is an opportunity. Hey, Stu Schreiber. I didn't see you here. Welcome. Here is an opportunity for you to do what I call a spiritual reality check, or what I describe as employing spiritual logic. And that is, the fact of the matter is that you are alive. And as long as you are alive, that infinite intelligence that conceived you and breathed life into you wants you here. You are wanted here. And if all you do is cultivate a peaceful, grateful countenance, and you don't have to know anything more than that. As long as I am here, it must be so that I am meant to be here. I am wanted here. I am needed here. And I can be a grateful being. I can be a grateful being instead of an angry being, instead of a hurt being, instead of a hating being. I can be a grateful being that I am privileged enough to get to have been given a role in this grand unfolding. And from that place, our hearts start to open. And with an open heart, we can attract a whole new set of circumstances beyond anything that we can imagine. But it all starts from acknowledging and accepting the miracle of getting to exist right here, right now, and the perfection of it. I hope this is penetrating. I hope that if you perceive that I can be of some support to you, I am looking for a handful of people to work with one-on-one. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me privately, and let's schedule a little preliminary one-on-one time to see how I might be able to support you. Because when we have been privileged to work through our own stuff and be able to shine our light, then all there is for us to do is use our lit candle to help light others. And I hold each and every one of you as the most actualized divine version of yourself that you could ever become. So if you've been waiting to step into that, now's your opportunity. Hallelujah! Hallelujah! Well, it is 7 p.m. and I'm just going to leave you with this. With a jingle on your tongue and a tingle in your heart, you will stay forever young. You will see the world as art. You will sing with every rainbow. You will wish upon each star. You will let yourself imagine, and this gift will take you far. Good night, everybody. Namaste till we meet again. Blessings.